Oh, I am the worst player of all time. Hey guys, so today I wanted to cover a guide on set 7. So this is my first guide of set 7. I thought one of the interesting guides to cover is probably which support units to play. So more importantly, which frontline forecast support unit you should be playing in your comp. So a lot of comps right now have a flex slot where you can slot in pretty much any support unit. And right now there's actually quite a few different support units to play. Most of them are CC support units. And most of them do quite a different, they provide different strengths and weaknesses. So today we're going to talk about how to use those for your advantage. So just some quick preface, I'm going to be mostly talking about the frontline support units, so Ornn, Hecarim, and Neeko. I'm not going to talk about the backline support units. Usually they're not that interesting because most of them you only play when you 2-star them or when you have like the appropriate pair with them. So I'll just cover them really quickly. So Bard, you should pretty much always play. If you don't need frontline, just play Bard. Sona, you should almost always play with Lulu if you don't need frontline. Soraka, you should almost always play if you have 2-star. But you should especially play it if you have a good frontline with lots of resistances, because every heal becomes a lot more valuable on a high resistance target. And then Zoe, so Zoe is a really weird carry. She's also support, but she's also a carry. So often you should almost always play her when you 2-star her. But you should, if you do play her, you want to have 3 mages in. So sometimes you'll tech in either like a Nami or a Silas or a Rise. So like Nami and Silas, Nami provides Mystic, Silas provides Bruiser. Or like Nami and Rise, or like Silas and Rise. So you want to play 3 mages plus Zoe as a secondary carry. Anyway, so aside these backline support units, since they're not that interesting, I'm going to be talking about Ornn, Hecarim, Neeko for the most part, and how to choose between which of the 3 units you want to run. So first talk about Ornn. Ornn is pretty much always the best support unit. His targeting is really controllable. So you can target the first cast always targets the farthest enemy unit. His second cast, where he knocks the ram, always targets the farthest enemy. That's not the first cast. So this one, this way you can pretty much always target exactly who you want to CC and get them every time. So he's a very powerful supporting unit. Hecarim has the Rage Wing tag. So what that means is that he doesn't take damage from mana. So if you frontline him, or if you second line him, he'll cast at the exact same time. So Hecarim usually needs to be second line to cast, because if you frontline him, he'll probably die before casting. Hecarim has the really nice benefit that he can easily target CC backlines. But Hecarim also has the problem where he's weak to Shroud and he's weak to Assassin. So I'll go into the details of that with the example later in the video. And so then comes Neeko. Neeko is the tankiest frontline because she can copy your like main tank. And with all the 3 items, the Neeko will copy those item stats until she reverts when she transforms. And when she transforms, she loses those stats, but still that makes up for it because she's extremely tanky in her shielded form. But Neeko has a problem where she's actually pretty useless against backliners. Okay, so let me show some examples so that you guys actually know what I'm talking about. So as a first example, here's a pretty common enemy setup where it's Idis plus a bunch of backliners. So here I chose the 3 Cannoneer build. But you can see that between these frontliners, first let's talk about Ornn. Ornn's really effective. Let's just say you want to stun the Sona quickie. All you have to put is Ornn on this side. So the first cast will slow the Sona. The second cast will stun the quirky, the Sona, and the Jinx. So I can say that Neeko is not as effective on this board. Neeko has a really big problem right here because while she is very tanky, her CC will hit not a single unit in the backline. And CCing the Idis doesn't actually make that big of a difference. So here, while Neeko is very good if you need a dedicated tank, she's not very good if you're actually trying to play support unit. And here, Hecarim of course is very good. Hecarim can target, depending on where you position him, you can either target to stun these guys or stun these guys or stun these guys. So here, in this example, the supporting units want to be running are Ornn and Hecarim, because this way, this will allow you to have the highest chance of stunning their backline, CC and stunning their backline. The second example I want to cover is a bunch of bruisers. So once again, Ornn is pretty good. The bruisers will clump, but so the bruisers will clump up, and then Ornn will still hit the ram and target the farthest enemy. It's a little bit random, but you can see that it still works. Hecarim, you can see that it's quite a bit worse. First off, there's no backliners to CC, and second off, once the enemies start clumping up, Hecarim's CC won't hit that many units. And especially because there's no backline to CC, Hecarim's ultimate loses a lot of effectiveness. But here in Neeko, Neeko is not only the tankiest, but also when the enemy units walk up around her and wrap around her, you can see that Neeko will stun the entire enemy team. So you can see that Neeko is here, very good against melee units. Ornn is pretty good against melee units and range units. Hecarim is fairly bad against melee units. So Neeko's good against melee units. And in the previous example, Hecarim is good against range units. So that's like a key difference. Next, let's talk about assassins. So for assassins, let's first talk about Hecarim. So Hecarim has a weakness against assassins. So depending on where you position him, or depending on how the position goes, often Hecarim will run up into the enemy team, then the assassins will jump, and then Hecarim will have left your entire team behind and not be any use. So there's ways to like quote unquote like prevent this from happening, such as by like cornering him behind your range units, but I find that to not be a very effective solution. And I think just in general, in this case, probably don't rely on Hecarim as a frontline. So that's Hecarim's weakness. Ornn, once again, is pretty decent against assassins. He will be calling up his ram and starting the farthest enemy. So it's always like not too bad. But Neeko here is amazing. So Neeko, when the assassins jump in, first off, she's the tankiest supporting unit, so she won't die as easily. And second off, she has no mana. She has no mana for her cast. Neeko will almost always get an ultimate off when the assassins jump on her. Oh, I did forget about how Ornn often could die too quickly to the assassins and might not get a cast off. So that's also one of Ornn's weaknesses against assassins. But Neeko will almost get a cast off since her ability costs no mana. So once again, Neeko is the best against assassins. Hecarim is the worst against assassins. And finally, let's talk about Shroud. So Shroud is particularly nasty against Hecarim. Hecarim's mana cost is extremely high at 120. If he gets shrouded, that mana goes up by 33%. But more importantly, in order for him to generate mana, he has to actually auto attack. He can't just tank damage. So shrouding Hecarim is a very big deal. It makes him a lot weaker and cast him a lot later into the fight, and sometimes makes it so that he doesn't cast at all. Similarly for Ornn, shrouding Ornn is a pretty big deal. Although usually with a 2-star Ornn with some tank items, he will still be able to cast regardless. But the good thing about Shroud is that if you play Neeko frontline, you're immune to Shroud. So Neeko's ability costs no mana. Well, it says that it's 0 out of 150, but when she transforms, she actually casts right away, regardless of her. So basically, her first cast is completely free. So in the event that you're running Neeko frontline, you can actually use her to mitigate the effectiveness of Shroud on your frontline. So hopefully you guys learned a little bit of how to use these forecasts and how to properly flex them into your comp. A lot of times I do see people saying that Hecarim is really bad, but in scenarios like this, Hecarim is actually an all-star. So definitely don't sleep on any of these three units. Try to understand their strengths and weaknesses and use that to your advantage.